This is Tim Beckley, recording live for the Conspiracy Journal. And this is our unfair, unbalanced, unedited series. And remember, you can't see me, but I can see you. This afternoon, I am honored to have with me actually here. We are in Tucson, Arizona. And I have with me a gentleman that I first met in the 1960s. His name is Paul Dickey. And Paul has been involved in UFOs maybe before the 60s. We're going to find out today because it's been such a long time. I want him to refresh my memory. Paul, when I first met you, it was in Washington, D.C., and we were both friends of Harold Sulkin.
Right.
And Harold Sulkin, along with Clara John, put out a newsletter called the Little Listening Post.
That's right.
And I remember Harold introduced me to you. You had had a sighting there in Washington.
Right.
Had you been involved in the subject before then? Was it something you had been interested in?
Absolutely. I had sightings before then, but not documented.
I remember the sighting you had. Can you give us a little bit of details? Wasn't it from the window of an office building or a government building?
Yes, it was.
What was the date on that? Do you remember? Aha!
I have my memory here. Believe me.
Well, it was on the front page. You're pretty close to it in the newspaper at the time.
It was. It was. I worked for the government from 1952 until, let's see, until 1985.
Mm-hmm. And in what capacity? How were you employed?
Well, I was an analyst for an agency that was part of the U.S. Army.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get? What was your first sighting like? I mean, how did you get involved in UFOs?
Well, really, I think I've been blessed or cursed, I don't know which, with excellent vision during my lifetime. I am now 83 years old, so my vision is not what it used to be. But I have had somewhere around 20 sightings.
Wow.
Over my lifetime.
And what was the earliest one?
I remember when I was in grade school, a group of round, whitish looking objects took off from the Washington, D.C. area and faded just away.
Now, were you born and raised in and around Washington?
Yes, I attended grade school in Kenilworth, D.C., mm-hmm. which was right near the Maryland line, mm-hmm. and I lived across about two or 3 miles away.
So, what year would have that first sighting been? How old, or at least how old were you at the time, and how many witnesses were there? Were there other people?
My father was a witness. He's dead now. I don't know. I would give you a guess that I was about the 4th grade at that time.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. And there were other people that saw it besides you and your dad?
At that time, no.
No. Mm-hmm. And how about your? What did you think of it at the time? I mean, had you read anything? Oh, this must have been pretty early out then. There wasn't much.
There was no literature at that time of the type that you're referring to,
yeah.
Which you know. So
this would have been maybe in the 1940s? Do you think? So this was probably the only thing then, where maybe a couple things like Ray Palmer had a magazine, Amazing Stories.
Before that.
Buck Rogers.
Maybe.
That's about 1935.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So you had to be one of the. Well, did you tell anybody about what you saw?
Well, I told family, but
mm-hmm.
we all shrugged it off because we couldn't explain it.
How many objects were there? Do you think? Or do you,
Well, about 20 to 30.
and how fast were they flying?
They looked like they were far enough away that they were only going up.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell though? I mean, did you feel that there was something strange about it? It wasn't
Yes, they were. They appeared to be colored on one side, on the bottom,
mm-hmm.
dark, and white on the top.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, in those days, there probably wasn't anything in the newspaper about it.
No.
What you say you had probably about 20 sightings. Did they all come in clusters, or were there any others at that early age? Or
none come to mind.
When did you get like kind of like I know you told me earlier that you did meet some of the early pioneers in the UFO field. When did you really get, what kind of like pushed you forward, or catapult you forward, or push you to the edge, or whatever, you know?
I think Harold Salton
Yeah.
was instrumental in raising my awareness of
Yeah. Okay. Now, how did you and Harold first meet?
I really can't remember now.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
Did it tie in with one of your sightings, or?
Possibly.
Yeah, because I remember he introduced me. He had the house that Claire John had left him. I stayed there a few times. Well, tell us a little bit about your sighting, the big sighting that made the newspapers. Was that 1964?
No, there was another one earlier than that.
Mm-hmm.
I had, knowing my memory is failing gradually, normally, I did prepare a list of major sightings.
Okay, that you had.
This was about 1937, the one that I was trying to remember about, and I have about 40 balloon-like objects rising together to the east from the southeast, all the same size. The northern hemisphere of all of them was white, as I said. The southern hemisphere of each object was black, no formation. Estimated distance was about 5 miles away. It rose into the air, no clouds at the time. Witnesses, self, and 4 persons, family.
Mm-hmm. And how long before you had your second sighting?
You take a look.
Oh, okay. That's allowed. At least you have it written down. Some people just make it up. So that's
Well, in July 1952.
Yeah, that was the big month.
Yes, it
UFOs
was.
over the Capitol.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
I had several sightings before this, but this was the major.
Yes.
A major one. I had traveled. I was working in the Washington area, and traveled out to my mother's house in Silver Spring, and 9 shining objects flew from due south, due north, over the Washington area, in a V-shaped formation, right splitting from the tip of Washington to the lower tip to the upper tip. And these estimated were 20 miles high. For 15 minutes we watched this, And I noticed...
Were they over any strategic location?
Well, at that height, it didn't matter whether it was strategic or not. It went over the middle of Washington, which I thought was pretty significant.
Well, now there seems to be, there have been quite a number of sightings over Washington, certainly around that period. Did you see anything on the two nights in question where the objects apparently paraded around the White House?
Well, I did. That was one of them that I had in mind. That had happened a few days before that. I was living in Alexandria, or somewhere in Virginia, and I noticed some UFOs had been reported, and I saw them flying to the east over the congested part of D.C., the Capitol and Monument area. And they looked like what I would have called at that time UFOs. I didn't know much about UFOs except hearsay and reading, but it looked like something real.
And now, what was your kind of gut reaction though towards this? I mean, did you feel that the country was under an invasion,
No.
or how did you cope with this? Because I don't think, like you say, there wasn't probably too much in those days to as far as the mindset goes on the subject, right?
Yeah, I didn't think that. I did think that that sighting was too important. I didn't hear anything on the radio about it except later. They were reporting UFOs over the White House, I think. But that seems to be, the White House and UFOs seem to go together, like they say, very well.
And this was a week or two before the big flap over there, then, or around that same time, yeah.
Yeah, that was during the flap.
I was, okay. Did you happen to see any of the planes take up after these things?
No, I didn't notice any planes chasing them.
Were they? Did they? To your mind, did they seem to be under? They did seem to be under intelligent control.
Oh, yeah, that's hard to deny.
Did you feel that they were from outer space, or?
I didn't know. I have since become acquainted with what the Germans had as a weapon during the time of the end of World War II. They had sophisticated flying saucers available. I did not know that at the time, but my research has confirmed that since.
Were you during this time period in the around 1952? Were you working for the government then?
Yeah.
And did you mention your sightings or your interest to anyone else, and what would their reaction be?
Yes, I reported my sightings always to the agency that I was working for, and I also called the Air Force.
And did anyone ever tell you to not to talk about it?
No, at that time, no.
Yeah.
But later on, they did.
Okay. Well, under what circumstances did they tell you not to talk about it? Later on.
I was getting too much notoriety about
you were.
Or the subject was.
And around what period would that have been? What years?
When Lyndon B. Johnson was president. I was my agency head, which I will remain. I will not say who the agency was, but he was directed at that time to shut that guy Dickey up.
Well, now, Paul, the sighting that I remember, or at least I think I remember, that was reported in the paper. Why don't you tell us about that one? I guess that's the one that got the attention. You were by the window or something when an object flew by, and there were 7 or 8 people there?
Yes. That week, we had on TV a program about a UFO that landed, and a very good-looking guy got off of it with a robot, and everybody knows this movie.
Oh, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
The Earth Stood Still. And that had come out, and everybody was excited about it and talking about it. So, on that day that we had that sighting...
In what building was that?
That was in the main Navy building,
Mm-hmm.
right across from the Federal Reserve on Constitution Avenue.
Okay, and what exactly, how many objects did you see, and can you describe them for us?
Well, that object, that sighting was approximately 20, let's see, about 20 objects randomly going over the Washington area for about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a plane that was trying to navigate around the Washington area to land across the river at the airport, and he was in quite a dilemma with all those UFOs.
You're pretty sure that he was able to detect them. He saw those?
Oh, yeah, he could see them very easily.
Did you ever talk to the pilot or find out who he was?
Not that pilot.
No. How about other witnesses besides the people standing in front of the window?
Well, I talked to several people, and it was also reported in the paper that, in a very light manner, that UFOs had been spotted, but nothing very serious.
Now, you mentioned that you were in the main naval building. I remember back around that time there were some stories floating around that several Navy officers, or maybe it was even an admiral, were involved in telepathic contact.
I never heard of that.
You don't know about that?
No.
Mm-hmm. And did you have? Okay? You saw this object on one given day. Did it come back?
No. What they did, these objects obviously wanted to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
They were cavorting. They were playing. I mean, like this, thousands of feet at a time. And it would get your attention quite readily to see an object or a number of objects doing that. And it rivets your attention. And then I noticed there were several F-111s trying to catch up to these objects, which they never did.
What was the size of the objects compared to the planes that were following them?
I looked up the 111, and they were just under 100 feet in across wing spread, and these objects were that plus a little bit.
Were they reflecting the sun, or were they shiny metal?
No, these didn't.
Self-illuminating?
I saw above,
shadowy figures?
I saw above the each one of those objects as they go by.
Yeah.
I was able to notice a flickering effect, which was probably associated with their propulsion system. But I noticed that there were clearly no blades or anything, material things above them. So I had to assume that it was a plasma or some airborne.
What was that? Would you say was that your best sighting?
Probably the most notorious one.
Well, that's for sure. And what was the duration? How long did it last?
It went on for about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What was most exciting about it, these two jet planes were brand new developments.
Mm-hmm.
The F-111 was just out of the hopper.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I know is that my kid brought home from grade school a picture of an F-111 which matched these planes. That was the first swing wing we had. The swing wing were just folded the wings backwards and they went. These planes were unable to capture or catch up with these objects, and they were in all sorts of aerobatics.
Okay, and when they disappeared, did they just flash off into the distance? Did they dissolve, or?
No. There were all but two of the objects, and there were a whole flock of them, 20, which were all random flying.
Mm-hmm.
How they ever did that without hitting one another, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But most of the flock disappeared before the jets came on the scene. And when they came on the scene, there were only two objects left. And they were right on line with my eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see these objects take off like that, and it looked like the jets had stopped in midair.
Well, now, by this time, were you starting to formulate more of an opinion as to what was going on with all of this?
Yes, it imposed itself as an opinion when you see something like that.
Were you beginning to think at that point that, well, obviously there had to be intelligent control to do the things that you just described?
Absolutely intelligent control, absolutely superior,
yeah, and
aerobatic.
And obviously, okay, some of the craft in the early days might have been like some of these German, but that doesn't sound, I mean, unless we really put some work into it, it doesn't sound like
that
these.
was way past what the Germans had.
Yeah.
Way past.
Where do you think the Germans might have gotten this technology from?
Well, I have heard rumors that they got it from extraterrestrial sources, which they contacted through a medium.
Yeah, we've heard the same stories. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Well, now, at that, were you telling your story in public at all? Because I know Harold was always organizing meetings, and he had me down there. During the Vietnam War, I remember he had me give a lecture at the I believe it was the YMCA, but it could have been the YWCA, and the whole street was like blocked off, and I only had about 10 people in the auditorium, and I remember looking through the window, and people were running because the police were tear gassing them. And I said to myself, you know, some of those people might not be protesting, they might actually be trying to get in to hear the lecture. So I always figured maybe a few people were scared away. But Harold was always organizing, you know, getting people on the radio, and he was the front man or the PR man for the space people. I don't think there was ever anybody like him since, you know. Who did he introduce you to, and who did you find credible, and who didn't you find credible?
Well, I had a real hard time believing Adamski, George Adamski. But since I have
how many times did you meet? How many times did you meet him?
5 or 6, maybe.
have dinner and all together hung out after the lectures? Or
Yeah.
yeah, just like today we did. Except there's no Adamski around. That's the.
But I since Adamski, I have learned that he was a veteran. Was that true?
Yeah, he was.
He was a veteran, and he was buried after his death
In Arlington, right?
in Arlington National Cemetery. So the government must not have had too much negative thoughts about him, and it boosted his credibility some.
Mm-hmm.
But I still saw a lot of ego.
Oh yeah.
And
well, we find that today, even with the people having experiences today, some people don't want to discuss it at all. You know, they slam the door in my face. They might do that anyway. And on the other hand, some people not only will talk to you about it, but they add a little bit to it every time it comes. You know,
this is hard. Hard to determine how much they add.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, it's a character, the person's character, and it differs from person to person. How about some of the other fellows that were around those days? Dan Fry.
I didn't. I found photographs that he had strung up.
Oh, Harold exposed those to me. They were a vacuum cleaner or something like that, top or something.
No, he on a clothesline. He had launched a model to slide down a clothesline.
Yeah, he was the old time Billy Meyer of his day, I guess.
And I didn't appreciate that very much because I took it very seriously. It was very important to view this with an honest, open mind.
Mm-hmm. Who else? Wayne Aho, you must have known.
Oh, very well.
I spent some time with Wayne. You know, he passed away a couple of years ago. I spent some time with him and Lee, his wife, up in Washington State. They had me lecture one time. You know, the Space Needle in Seattle. There's actually a room for lectures and stuff in there, so I lectured in the Seattle Space Needle. I mean, that's of course if we had. Well, that's another story. Okay, so who else? How about Major Kehoe and Nightcap? Did you ever go up? Did they ever investigate your story? Or
absolutely, I was a Nightcap member at that time. And I remember Kehoe's first address on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
What had happened was that he was cut off when he was mentioning something.
Oh yes, yeah. That was that Mike? Walter Cronkite? Was that the time he was cut off the air?
Yeah.
Armstrong Circle Theater. That was the one.
Yeah.
Right.
He was cut off, and I really didn't like the way they treated Kehoe because he had I knew what Kehoe was going to say.
Yeah. He was asking people to write to their congressman or something, right?
Yes. And that was when I realized that it was the main policy of our government to bury this subject as deep as they could get away with.
And why do you think? Why would they want to do that? What was your opinion then, and what is your opinion today? Has that shifted any?
I knew from the work that I was in the capabilities that we had. In no way was it anywhere close to what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And as proof, the demonstration of the flyover, when our best jets were following them, they couldn't catch him.
And how about, okay, this was in the 1950s, 1960s. We've come a long way. We've landed on the moon. You know, we've gone 100 times into space. Astronauts like Gordon Cooper and Neil Armstrong.
Neil.
Yeah, they've all told about, you know, their UFO experiences, and it's, you know, a lot of it has been on TV and in the films and things like that. Why the continued science? Is it still?
I believe the policy has never been implemented because they couldn't agree. I believe that there were two sides to it. Probably pride, national pride was part of it, couldn't admit that, in my opinion, that somebody was so far ahead of us.
Well, tell them what the guy from the CIA told you about disclosure.
What did he tell me? Who was it?
I don't know who he was. He took you out on the sidewalk in front of where you worked, and he told you that the time was not of our choosing. It was, remember?
Yeah, I was advised by somebody who, I was called out from my office to go be interviewed by an unknown person who was very well dressed, very well mannered, and educated. Probably in the same business as I was. And as my wife just said, part of that conversation, he disclosed to me that the time was not ripe for disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very problematic for disclosure to have happened.
Well, they talk about disclosure today. Do you think there'll ever be disclosure?
No, there will not be, in my estimation, until they land here, which I expect very soon.
You do think that they're going to make an overt attempt to land?
Yeah.
What will they look like?
It depends on who. The universe is a big place, and they have many different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the reaction of the public will be?
Shock at first, but if it's done right, I have the overwhelming belief that I have accrued in the years is that these people have our best interest at heart.
You feel that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think they might come from? Do you think they come from other planets, other times?
No, I really don't think that they're from. They may have colonies on some of our solar system planets, which I believe may be Mars,
Mm-hmm.
or further ones out, the moon maybe. But I think they probably would be from Nibiru.
Mm-hmm. So you think you kind of go along with Zachariah Stetson, though, that they've been coming here since for a long time, thousands of years?
Thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they had anything to do with our creation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Are we like a somebody's scientific experiment, or is there a more ulterior motive than that?
Well, I believe they had an ulterior motive at the beginning. They needed a mineral that was plentiful on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
They needed it to maintain, to float this particles, microscopic particles of the mineral, to reflect heat back into, I assume, to the planet to keep it warm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the story that I hear that is the most reasonable. And the need for this mineral was the reason they came to this earth, because it was abundant.
And these are but there are other groups that are coming here as well.
I believe so.
And you think all of them are? How about the people who claim that they've been abducted and they have these kind of horrifying experiences?
I believe that's happened, but it's happened to people that I have known, and I believe that God works in ways that will protect us.
All right, we have a small group of people sitting around here this afternoon. Does anybody here have some questions? Jim, do you have anything? Jim Delatoso,
Uh,
on the left.
you were talking about the time of disclosure, and that the person that talked to you gave you the sense that our government was not in charge at the time. It was
Yes,
not of our choosing, but was of
they're choosing.
their choosing. Did he tell you why he thought that?
But what?
Did that man tell you why he thought that?
No. He gave me very little information.
Do you think he was a government agent, or was he a man in black or something like that?
No, I think he was an employee of the government.
Did you ever have any other like strange experiences, not necessarily UFO related, but anything odd happen after any of these sightings?
My phone used to be tapped all the time.
So tell them about the night you were in your house and you heard them, what they told you to do.
You mean when I drug you outside?
No, honey. When your kids were little and you heard the voice, they said, go over to your closet and get your binoculars. There's a UFO outside.
Yeah.
Tell them that story.
Yeah, I have had several unique experiences where I was directly communicated with by waves that did not impinge on my ear, but I did hear a voice. And they advised me, this was in the 60s. They advised me to get up, go to my closet, get my binoculars. I said, how the hell do they know where my binoculars are? But I did. I went to the closet, got my binoculars. My wife says, where are you going? And I said, there's a UFO outside. And she gave me this. And I went out there, and at first I didn't see anything, and I felt empty. And all of a sudden, after going around the corner of the apartment, I turned back and saw this big cloud, thunder, a rain cloud, with a hole in the middle. And I could see the sun rays hitting a UFO in that cloud. And I called all the kids out from their dinner very loud, on a very loud voice. I said, hey kids, come out here if you want to see a UFO. And about 20 kids poured out of the apartment and looked. And they were very excited. I passed the binoculars around and they looked at it. And all of a sudden, you could see no more. And at that time, I was really baffled how they could do that. And since then, I have heard about cloaking and learned more about plasmas being manipulated, and the thickness of the plasma could bend light. And I deduced that they could turn that off and on to seemingly disappear at will.
How many times did you have this experience where they told you to do something?
A couple times.
And okay, you described how you went outside and you saw the site, but did they ever direct you to do anything else? I mean, was there or say why they were doing this? I mean, do you feel they picked you because you were a believer at this time?
They must have. They must have. I really can't kid
well,
to do
well,
stuff.
just one last thing. Okay. Well,
You feel that they're going to make contact with someone soon? All of civilization, a special segment of civilization?
Yes, I do. They almost have to. And I will be very blunt with you. Humanity, if it goes into another war, it will use atomic and nuclear devices. They're already using heavy ammunition, which is made out of pieces of
Plutonium.
uranium or some similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that has had consequences. You don't hear about it in the news, but if you study it, they're already poisoning this whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And this cannot go on. I do believe that these entities or these people or groups are interested in having this world as able to support life like us.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they will protect it from us.
Have you had since you you were what time? When did you move away from Washington D.C.? What year did you move from Washington? And where did you move to?
About 65.
And where did you go? Where did you move to?
We went over to Fort Huachuca
Which
in
is-
Arizona.
In Arizona. So you've been living in Arizona since then?
Yeah.
Have you've had sightings since you moved here?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you say protect it from us, protect the world, the earth from us? Does that mean...
There is a priority I have been led to believe, or myself, due to my exposure to the little bit at a time, that the earth is very important to the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to the scheme of life and the propagation of life on the earth and in the solar system. And if we have another war, that earth will be destroyed.
Okay, they're concerned about saving the earth. Are they concerned about saving any of the humans that are causing the problem on the surface of the earth? And are there...
I can tell you that I have every reason to believe that they want us to be responsible for what our actions are, period. If that means poisoning the earth, they will have to step in and stop that.
Do you think they possibly cohabit this planet?
Yeah.
Under the sea, in the earth, or...
I believe that they do undersea, and in some underground facilities.
That is making more and more sense to me over time, because I'm like, why would they come from... Maybe they have the capability of interstellar travel, but why would they want to hang out here unless they had a base, or are they a home, or they're ancient race before we ever came about? They're just more evolved than we are, or more, longevity on the planet.
I believe that, like you have already alluded to, that we were a race of people developed by them, and developed because they couldn't do all the physical work to mine the gold. And
It's like Avatar, and they are the bad guys.
yeah,
Well, then we should have the same traits that they do.
we do.
We like to breed,
Every
we like to
bit
perfect
of
breeds,
research
and
I
have
make,
nice
I
little
see
doggies running
myself.
around, and pretty birds and things like that. So
We
they're
have
not
the
perfect.
same traits
either
as
way.
the Anunnaki.
Uh-huh.
Do they live longer than us? Are they
Yes.
physically more?
Yes,
Healthy?
it is written, and you can look all this up in the works of Zechariah Hitchin, that they have a very long lifetime, and that they consider this earth as their home away from home.
Did you see the picture in my book with from that window that we got out of that UFO and I overexposed it and we got that face of a pilot? You can see that vision.
Yeah, we'll get to.
But another question is, he says that he does dowsing with rods, and that he's able to
Anybody,
I don't know how to describe
anybody
what you're
can
doing,
do that.
but can you describe what you were saying, how you can actually directionally find them if they're around, or how are you calling them?
No, not calling.
Well, why do you think that you've had so many sightings as opposed to some people who haven't had any? And
Well,
some
I
people
look.
Huh?
I look.
Well, I know some people stand on top of the mountain and never
That'd be nice.
never see anything.
Well, I'd like you to explain his dowsing process, because it might help people to be able to have some skills at seeing them.
We have several people in the room besides myself
Mm-hmm.
who have more than capability than I do. So it's not strange at all. Dowsing is, if you put your mind to it, you can develop it.
Now, you're talking about the rods, not the pendulum.
What's the difference? It's the body it's connected to.
I don't do dowsing, so and a lot of people who are going to watch this probably don't even know about dowsing. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of
There
asking
are
you to
several
explain it a
ways
little bit.
of I call it scanning. I don't like to use the word dowsing.
Uh-huh.
It's not magic. It's something that we have an innate capability to do if we so desire.
Do you think that there are people working in agencies that have developed the insights that you have?
I think so.
Do you think that there's a agency that has more than others? Like, would the National Reconnaissance Organization have more inside thinking than the Office of Naval Intelligence? Or, I mean, you said that there's factions. With policy, they can't agree on policy.
Mm-hmm.
We can assume that those aren't elected people.
Yeah.
So, did you notice any change, thank you, when new agencies were created, like the NRO, that all of a sudden there was a change in the way things were managed?
I've never focused in on the political aspects reflected by a new agency. I probably never was aware of when NRO started. See, no.
Well, I think. Is there anything you would like to add, Paul? I mean, what direction is this taking? I mean, what was your latest sighting?
Last night.
What did you see?
Well, my friends were outside,
Mm-hmm.
and he was calling anybody that was out there in the air who would be qualified as being called a UFO person, and he called me after they saw it, and I went out and looked. I immediately was interested in verifying whether I couldn't see it because there was a cloud in the way. But But I have a method of using a bobber, a dowsing instrument, and it sure gave me an indication of the field effect of that. These objects are powerful, and they have tremendous field.
Can I interrupt for a second? A few nights ago, you were dowsing, you and Randy, and you got a signal to the north, and we got a report.
Why don't you just take a seat there
about
next
20
to Paul
20 objects.
and identify yourself. We only have a few minutes here, so we got a few minutes.
Okay, sure.
All right. And tell us who you are.
Let me be ready.
Okay, go ahead. We're ready.
My name is Randolph Walter, and I've been in contact with ever since I was 12 years old.
In fact, I understand that you are a member of our Dragon Star group. So good, definitely good to meet you.
Yeah.
What? Okay. Well, tell us first. What did you see last night? What time was it?
I went out earlier and used my wand to send a signal up, inviting them, welcoming them, and within a short time they actually showed up.
Mm-hmm.
I know their presence.
And what did you see?
I saw the light started glowing, the lights changing. At one point, even the blue beam was set right at me. No, we might.
Okay, and okay, so you say you've had sightings and experiences since you were 12.
Right.
How many sightings have you had?
8, 9, 10, 12. I really never.
And what was the closest?
The closest was at Walmart. When I lived in Griffin, Georgia, the ship was so close I could hit it with a pea shooter. It was that close.
Wow, and what was the description on that one? Did it have metallic surface or?
Well, to tell you the whole story, I lived across the street from a Walmart, and I went into Walmart to pick some up, and I was coming back. All of a sudden, the hairs on the back of my neck started standing up, and I knew I was being watched. And it got
not me.
stronger and stronger, and when I turned around,
I don't sound like a music box. Okay, I'm sorry.
When I turned around, it was hovering right over Walmart.
Uh-huh.
And come to find out later, it was the same as the Palladian ship.
Now, have you had physical contact with these beings, or?
When in my dream state, and also after projection, I have actually went to meetings and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually left my body where I was able to attend meetings. Matter of fact, I went into a meeting one time, and they were talking about me when I walked in the door.
Mm-hmm. When you walked in the door to where? A spaceship?
To a meeting they had. And I'm not quite sure at the time where the meeting was, but I was there.
Mm-hmm. And who was at the meeting?
Different members of Star Nations.
Okay, and did they all look human, or were they all different descriptions, or?
Different descriptions, but the majority of them are humanoid.
Mm-hmm. And why do you? You've had these psychic experiences. Do you think it's because of that you are able to contact and communicate with them?
Because I was a chosen contactee from a long time ago.
Who chose you?
One of the groups that I'm working with is the Palladians.
Mm-hmm.
Very much.
And what is your, okay, how many other chosen people are there, and what is your specialty? I mean, are you supposed to tell people something, or what message do you have?
The message is get ready.
And
the changing times is coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming to that point where people need the 2 point. One is we need to start learning to work in harmony, and as Paul said, and I've been told this too, they will not tolerate us destroying this earth. They won't. Mm-hmm. They'll stay out of it to a point, but any attempt to destroy Mother Earth will not be tolerated. Mm-hmm. Missiles will be shut off. Missiles will be destroyed. They've made it perfectly clear. They have tried to work with the governments. The government has turned them away, so now they're seeking individuals for individual contact.
Well, you know what I was going to say is, why don't they make some overt attempt to contact Jim Delatoso or somebody? I mean, like or us. I mean, like they should be right here in front of the tape recorder.
Ask them.
Okay. Ask them now.
Yes, you
okay.
can ask them mentally, meditation, whatever. Ask them.
Hmm.
Ask them for contact.
Okay. Well, why don't we all concentrate on having a sighting when we leave here this evening? We got a trip to Phoenix. Maybe one of the good ships will follow us.
So that's what it is.
And I won't have to take a cramped plane back home.
I've asked them to make communication. They've shown me, but they haven't They haven't made the kind of contact we're asking.
Yeah, but you have to ask yourself with inside, are you really ready or not? Some people say it, but then when the contact starts coming, they throw that defense wall, and that's it.
I'll take a chance.
Everybody's a little scared.
I would-
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I've been doing this long enough, you know. Take me and have me for lunch, or take me for lunch. Give me some of Joe Symington's pancakes or
Yeah, but you just
something.
got to be careful who you're asking to take you.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay.
Because the grace you do never want to see.
I can handle. Didn't I see the Kelly Hopkinsville case where they shot him and the Grace little guys bounced right back?
No, when you're taken up and thrown on the table and all your clothes removed and all machines hooked up to you, no, that's
But why do they want to do that? I mean,
experiment us because we're the guinea pigs, we're the animals.
yeah. So did they get revenge and pick me because I said something like that?
Well, that's been the same thing when they
I
did it
used
to
to
me.
do that in school.
I still have nightmares.
Can
Do
I
you?
ask you a question about the Pleiadians?
Sure.
They've contacted Billy Meyer and they've contacted Adrienne, or supposedly a guy named Adrienne
Right.
in Florida. Maybe do you know of any other cases that are Pleiadian?
A lot of people talk about it.
A lot of people
Barbara
talk about it.
Marchiniak, kind of well known for that. Kevin Ryerson, Alan Bates,
Lots of people. I
Yeah,
know a
Kelly
guy
Geiger.
who said in his lab in South America, where they cut the Vogel crystals, that Semyasi appeared and told them that those crystals are to be used for reprogramming our
Well,
DNA.
Tim sells the best stone you can use for contacting ET.
Moldavite?
That's
But
right.
besides all this,
Did you ask me about, who asked me about Moldavite? Oh, you did.
oh, but the thing
As
is,
a matter of fact, the one I got from you,
Yeah.
I gave her.
Oh, okay.
Because yeah,
Can you write me a little testimony so other people don't think I'm just sitting there making it up?
yeah, certainly glad to.
Okay.
but my question is, if they have a message for us, appearing to Billy Meyer in Switzerland or Adrienne in Florida, here we always think, okay, well, why not to a group of people that, are ready, spiritually ready to, it's not like, okay, appear here so that we could go put out your message, because then we would look like we were people on a mission trying to start a religion, and that wouldn't accomplish a thing.
That's what Billy Muir's starting to turn into right
And
Yeah.
I've held a fall
why
with them.
can't they, maybe use the media, appear on the 6 o'clock news and say, look, we're interrupting your programming.